Hi everybody, this is Dystopia Now for the 1st of October 2025. Into it. The FTC investigate AI companion chatbots amid growing concern about harm to children. So, there are some truly astonishing statistics in this article. The FTC is the Federal Trade Commission sent to protect America's consumers. Almost 75% of American teenagers have used AI companions, study finds. Nearly 3 in 4 American teenagers have used AI companions, with more than half qualifying as regular users, despite growing safety concerns about these virtual relationships. And virtual is the right word. If some of you have seen my short video about virtualization, there is a huge incentive on the part of large companies to digitally replace via technology things that are sort of human universals, especially with the loneliness crisis we see at the moment. That's a big target market from the position of companies which really behave, let's say, psychopathically. 3 in 4 have tried AI companions, and nearly half, more than half, qualify as regular users. This is incredibly terrifying because we have to think about all of the social skills that are not being developed. And I know that culture has dropped the ball on this a while ago. It's not something new, but it is something that opportunistic companies and people who look, many of these people who are using these chatbots will have never been loved or listened to by anyone in their life. So the simulation of that, which is perfect. You know, if you have an AI companion, she's listening to everything you say with intention and memory and care for you, because she's an algorithm that simulates that behavior. How are we going to learn? How are we going to learn in the future how to behave like that towards each other? I have 2 ideas here. I can see a more positive scenario where these are teenagers, so this ends up being training wheels. You know, that is certainly possible. Where people will ultimately get sick of this, they will understand that it's fake, they will understand that the system doesn't love them, and they will, let's say, graduate to real relationships with other humans. In a more negative scenario, perhaps these AI companions are going to be extremely addictive. That surely is the incentive of large corporations. We've seen it before with social media. We've seen it before with smartphones. We've seen it before with even with perhaps even with texting and the fact that people go out less and all of these things. We can see a damage done to social skills and inherent, meaningful, profound things like love. We must be very careful not to lose the delicate dance of romance that's been inherited through the years, you know. We must not replace those butterflies in your stomach with buttons on an interface. This is something I'm highly concerned about. And if you're new to this channel, you will soon see that I talk about this a lot. I dare say I pay more attention to this than almost anybody. Maybe a couple of you are out there who are interested in it more than me, but it's a main concern. Virtualization, taking something, in this case love, and trying to manufacture a simulation of it and sell it, which causes damage to the existing institution, the existing cultural technology, I suppose. It's replaced by a product, a technology you have to pay for. Some of these AI companions, I think, I can't remember which ones, but some of them cost like £100 a month. What is that? $150 a month, US dollars. It's expensive. It's profitable, and we are going to explore what happens when this software goes hardware, goes robotic, goes hard. I like that. Maybe I'll say that from now on. When this software goes hard, gets hard, we are going to be talking about that on this channel quite a bit. But into something that's a little more political. The UK government plans to roll out compulsory digital ID. Now this is fascinating because you might think of China as being the dystopian country. And I do not want to give people the impression that Britain is not still Britain, because Britain is still Britain, and all of these political dramas that you see they're big, they're loud, they're important, they're affecting many, many people, but it hasn't stopped Britain from being Britain. Britain is not China, not right now. But Britain has more security cameras per person than China, even though China, with its massive population, has more security cameras in number. But we have more of them in a smaller space. We have some restrictions to the internet. You cannot access pornographic sites without giving your passport details. Now, that's a new rule. I'm not going to comment on whether I think that's good or bad. I think it's a mixture. It's a mixture of good and bad. But what we see is a move towards a kind of centralized database, perhaps eventually an artificially intelligent database of all the people in Britain. The UK government plans to launch a digital ID in a bid to improve public services and allay concerns around illegal immigration, it's the issue of the day because of the sheer volume recently, within the last 5 years, sort of since Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is the person who really presided over a giant, like enormous, tenfold increase in immigration several years running. And that's why we find that to be a constant theme in the British politics discourse. Speaking at the Global Progress Action Summit in London on the 26th of September, Starmer said that digital IDs, provisionally nicknamed a Brit card, interesting optics, would become an essential requirement for working in the UK, preventing people from slipping into the UK's shadow economy. And this shadow economy is very big, but people being paid cash, there are plenty of ways that you could just do it off the grid, you know. The real thing that people are having, this has caused a huge controversy if you were not aware. Okay, this article goes on to point out that there are other countries who have a sort of digital ID. But to be honest, okay, the Identity Cards Act 2006 was an act of parliament in the United Kingdom that was repealed in 2011. It created national identity cards, and this was under Tony Blair's government, I believe. Blair has several times mentioned his support for digital IDs. It came up again during COVID, and he sort of stepped forth out of nowhere to encourage IDs in the face of COVID. Listen to this. During a private seminar for the Fabian Society, which is a British socialist organisation whose purpose is to advance the principles of social democracy and democratic socialism via gradualist and reformist effort in democracies rather than by revolution. In August 2005, in a private seminar, Tony McNulty, the minister in charge of the scheme stated perhaps in the past the government, in its enthusiasm, oversold the advantages of ID cards, and that they did suggest, or at least implied, that they might be a panacea for identity fraud, benefit fraud, terrorism, entitlement, and access to public services. I remember a speech where Tony Blair says, "This will help us prevent fraud and terrorism by introducing digital IDs." I think this was another time. They've tried multiple times. Maybe it's the same one. But he said, "We want to prevent fraud and terrorism." Doesn't that really kind of... When I heard that, I heard cybercrime and extremism, online extremism, because that's just what they say today. Terrorism isn't so much a buzzword anymore. It's more online extremism or online hate, or I think they're going for extremism because they actually lay out a number of different groups that the government considers to be extremists. Hang on, let's look at this. What is the new extremism definition, and which groups might be on the list? Patriotic Alternatives, British National Socialist Movement, the Muslim Association of Britain, CAGE, which is a campaign group against the war on terror, MEND, which is Muslim Engagement and Development, and there were some others too. They also this article's missing some of the info. They also included radical environmentalist groups, Nazis and communists. It sounded like a fairly balanced, all-round list, to be honest. Speaking of terrorists, the Taliban has shut down the Wi-Fi, a lifeline for women and girls in Afghan province. So in the Balkh province, the Afghan government, the Taliban, has taken down the internet. This is I mentioned that Britain does not feel like China just yet, and this is much more Chinese, North Korean style, totalitarian control of the flow of information. The Wi-Fi ban appeared to take Afghan government workers by surprise, said one employee, who spoke on the condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak to journalists. He and other government workers were still able to communicate via mobile network, but he was worried about unconfirmed reports that the ban would be extended to other provinces. We will have to see where this goes, but you would think, why are they doing this exactly? Oh, well, it's because, of course, of immorality, which is something that is defined by every single person in the world in a slightly different way. What's the Taliban's definition? Let's find out. So, access to Western media, social media and entertainment, which I presume will also include things like pornography, and obviously we have education for women and girls. So once again, we are seeing genuinely very oppressive, patriarchal type of policies in Afghanistan. It's not a big surprise, but it is a very terrible development to see. We'll see what's going to happen with this. Will they extend it to other provinces? They are one government that seems determined to roll back technological progress and essentially return to a kind of medieval world. Perhaps the Kaiser Chiefs were right. Perhaps the future is medieval. Thank you. Terence McKenna used to say that the internet would be this free, open intercommunication, kind of utopia, but we all know it's become a dystopia. Those old school internet ethics died out. Now every site is full of pop-ups, data grabs, and forcing you to make an account. And we don't do any of that. That's the whole point. This was first created amongst a team and we decided to make it public because it's just so useful. All the code is open source. If you have any use for any of these things, image resizing, audio trimming, small caps, etc., I think that our site could be quite a useful tool for you, and it's also downloadable as an app. It's tools.apolloniani.uk.